My HOA president trapped me by my mailbox and screamed that my monthly fees jumped from $200 to $1,850. Starting now, I'm a widowed teacher with a 6-year-old daughter. My wife died 6 months ago. I can barely afford groceries. I asked why. She shoved papers in my face and said it's for community improvements. I looked around. Our gate's been broken for months. The roads are falling apart. Nothing's improved. When I told her I couldn't afford this, she leaned close and whispered that I should have thought about that before buying here. Then she smiled. 30 days, or we take your house. She walked away like she'd already won. But that night, I found something buried on page 47 of our HOA contract. They needed 90-day written notice by law. They gave us 0. That's when I realized this wasn't about fees. 10 families got these letters. All waterfront properties. All targeted. The money wasn't going to improvements. I discovered exactly where it was going, and it was federal prison level illegal. The sun was beating down on my driveway when I heard the footsteps behind me. Heavy, deliberate, angry. I turned around and Barbara Sterling was already on my property, crossing my lawn like she owned it. Her face was twisted into something between rage and satisfaction. She had a folder clutched in her hand like a weapon. "We need to talk," she said. Not asked. Demanded. I was holding the garden hose. Water still running onto the grass. The lake behind my house was perfectly still. Green mountains reflected in the surface. This was supposed to be peaceful. About what? I asked. She shoved the folder into my chest. Papers spilled out. I caught them, confused. "Your new fees," she said. Her voice was sharp. Cutting. Effective immediately. I scanned the first page. Monthly HOA fees. My eyes found the number. $1,850. I laughed. Had to be a typo. "That's funny," I said. "My fees are $200. Not anymore." Her face didn't move. She wasn't joking. My smile died. "What are you talking about?" I asked. The hose slipped from my hand. Water pooled around my feet. "Special assessment. Community improvements. It's all in the paperwork." She pointed at the folder. "You have 30 days to pay or we begin foreclosure proceedings." The word hit me like a fist. Foreclosure. "You can't be serious," I said. My voice was shaking now. "That's an 800% increase. You can't just." "I can. The board approved it. It's done." I flipped through the papers. Legal jargon. Dense paragraphs. Buried somewhere in the middle was the assessment. But nothing about why. Nothing about what improvements. I looked past her at the community gate. It had been broken for 3 months. The roads were full of cracks. The community center had a "closed for repairs" sign that had been there since spring. "What improvements?" I asked. "Nothing's been fixed. Nothing's been upgraded." She smiled. "Cold. Empty. That's not your concern. You signed the HOA contract. You agreed to abide by board decisions." My hands were shaking. My chest felt tight. "Barbara, I'm a teacher. I'm a single dad. My wife died 6 months ago. I can barely. Should have thought about that before buying here." The words came out flat. No sympathy. No humanity. I stared at her, trying to find something human in her eyes. Nothing. Behind me, I heard the screen door open. Emma, my 6-year-old daughter, standing on the porch in her sundress. Watching. "Daddy," she called out. Barbara glanced at her, then back at me. 30 days, she said. "After that, this house belongs to the HOA." She turned and walked away, heels clicking on my driveway, across my lawn, back toward the street. I stood there, water soaking into my shoes, papers in my hand. The number stared back at me. $1,850. How can fees legally jump 825% overnight? What are these improvements they're hiding? Can they really take my home in 30 days? I didn't sleep that night. Couldn't. Emma was in her room, asleep, her mother's pictures still on the nightstand, the same ones she kissed every night before bed. I sat at the kitchen table, every HOA document spread out in front of me. Contract, bylaws, amendment notices, all 47 pages. My coffee went cold 3 times. I read every word, every clause, every subsection, every footnote. There had to be something, some loophole, some protection. Page 19. Nothing. Page 23. Nothing. Then page 47. I stopped. Read it again. The board reserves the right to levy special assessments with majority board approval. Standard language. Expected. But then the next line. Members must receive 90-day written notice and opportunity to vote on assessments exceeding 200% of standard fees. 90 days. Written notice. I grabbed my mail from the last 3 months. Rifled through every envelope. Every piece of paper. Nothing. I opened my email. Searched HOA. Searched assessment. Searched fees. Nothing. They never notified us. My heart started pounding. This wasn't just wrong. It was illegal. My phone buzzed on the table. I jumped. Text message. Marcus. My neighbor 3 houses down. Did you get the letter? I stared at the screen. I typed back. Yes. You too. 3 dots appeared immediately. $1,600. I can't afford this. My wife's freaking out. I called him. He picked up on the first ring. Marcus, did you get any notice before this? Any email? Any mail? Nothing, he said. His voice was strained. Panicked. It just showed up yesterday. Out of nowhere. Same here, I said. Who else got one? Henderson family. The Kowalskis. Mrs. Thompson. Everyone on our street. I walked to my window. Looked out at the lake. Lakeview Drive. Waterfront properties. All of us. Only our street. I asked. Yeah, Marcus said. I talked to the Johnsons up on Hillside. They didn't get anything. Their fees are still normal. My mind was racing. Why only us? Why only the waterfront? Marcus, I found something in the bylaws, I said. They're supposed to give us 90 days notice. They didn't. This whole thing might be illegal. Silence on the other end. Then, I heard something else. His voice dropped. Almost a whisper. Barbara's son just started a development company. Derek Sterling. Filed the papers 6 weeks ago. My blood went cold. How do you know that? Public records. My brother's a realtor. He looked it up. I opened my laptop. Searched Sterling Development LLC. There it was. Filed August 15th. Derek Sterling. CEO. Barbara Sterling. Listed as consultant. I clicked through more pages. Found a proposal document. Cashed from some county planning meeting. Luxury lakefront condominiums. Estimated value. $900,000 per unit. My stomach dropped. This wasn't about fees. This was about land. Our land. Are they systematically targeting waterfront properties? What's their real development plan? How many families are they trying to destroy? The community clubhouse smelled like old carpet and stale coffee. I walked in with Marcus. For other targeted families behind us. The Hendersons. The Kowalskis. The Rodriguezes. Mrs. Thompson. The room was packed. Maybe 60 residents. Folding chairs in rows. Everyone talking in hushed voices. Barbara sat at the front table. For other board members beside her. All women. All wearing brown pantsuits. Like a corporate firing squad. She didn't look at us when we entered. I found a seat near the front. Marcus sat beside me. His leg bouncing nervously. Barbara banged a gavel. Meetings in session. Her voice cut through the noise. Everyone went quiet. She went through standard business. Minutes approved. Treasurer's report. Landscaping contract renewal. Like nothing was wrong. Like she hadn't just tried to steal our homes. I stood up. I want to discuss the special assessment. Barbara didn't even look up from her notes. Already approved by the board. Next topic. We never received the required notice, I said. My voice was louder now. Firmer. The bylaws state. The bylaws were amended last month, she interrupted. We sent emails to all members. I pulled out my phone. Held it up. I have no emails. None of us do. I gestured to Marcus and the others. We checked. Barbara shrugged. Not our problem if you don't check your spam folders. Murmurs rippled through the room. Marcus stood. This is illegal. You can't just change the rules and... The back door opened. A man walked in. Dark suit. Expensive briefcase. Cold eyes. Barbara smiled for the first time that night. This is Richard Vance. Our attorney. He'll address your concerns. Vance walked to the front. Didn't smile. Didn't blink. The board has full legal authority under the revised bylaws, he said. His voice was mechanical. Rehearsed. If you refuse payment, we will file liens against your properties. Then proceed with foreclosure. You will also be responsible for our legal fees. He paused. Approximately $50,000 per case. The room went silent. Someone gasped. Mrs. Thompson started crying. Her hands trembling in her lap. I felt my chest tighten. You can't do this, I said. Vance turned to me. We already are. Barbara leaned forward. We're also implementing daily fines for any violations. $500 per day. She looked directly at me. Your grass was half an inch too tall yesterday. That's $500. My jaw clenched. This is extortion. This is enforcement, Barbara said. Pay your fees. Follow the rules. Or leave. The meeting ended 5 minutes later. People filed out in silence. Marcus grabbed my arm in the parking lot. What do we do? I looked back at the clubhouse. Barbara was standing in the window, watching us, smiling. Can they really charge $50,000 in legal fees? Are the daily fines even legal? How far will they escalate this? The pounding started at 6 a.m. I jolted awake, heart racing. More pounding. Louder. Police. Open up. I stumbled to the door. Still half asleep. Opened it. 2 officers. Uniforms. Flashlights still on even though the sun was rising. We got a call about suspicious activity at this address, one said. Around 3 a.m. I was asleep at 3 a.m., I said. Mind if we look around? I didn't have a choice. They searched my garage, my backyard. Found nothing. Left without apologizing. It happened again 2 days later. Different officers. Same story. Anonymous tip. Then again 3 days after that. Emma stopped sleeping through the night. She'd wake up terrified when she heard the knocking. Why do the police keep coming, Daddy? I had no answer that wouldn't scare her more. Day 4. I found a violation notice taped to my front door. Mailbox non-compliant with community standards. Fine, $500. It was the same mailbox I'd had for 8 years. I took a photo. Documented everything. Next morning. Another notice. Fence extends 6 inches over property line. Fine, $1,000. I pulled out my property survey. The fence was exactly where it should be. I called the HOA office. No answer. That afternoon, my boss called me into his office at school. We received a complaint, he said. Uncomfortable. Someone said you've been embezzling from the school fundraiser. My blood went cold. That's insane. I've never. I know, he said. But we have to investigate. It's policy. You'll be on administrative review for 2 weeks. I knew exactly who filed that complaint. I left work early. Drove home. Found all 4 of my tires slashed. Deep cuts. Deliberate. I checked the community security cameras. The ones mounted at the entrance. Called the HOA office again. This time someone answered. The cameras malfunctioned last night, the voice said. No footage available. Of course not. Marcus texted that evening. Check Facebook. I opened the app. Found a community group I'd never seen before. Lakeview Residents United. My face was the top post. Big photo. Pulled from somewhere. Caption, deadbeat refuses to pay his fair share. Wants special treatment because of sob story. 73 comments. Entitled loser. Pay your bills like everyone else. His poor daughter has to deal with this deadbeat dad. That last one broke something in me. Emma came into the living room. Daddy, why are people saying mean things about you online? She'd seen it. Someone at school showed her. I closed my laptop. It's just misunderstandings, sweetheart. But my hands were shaking. That night, I heard glass shatter. Ran downstairs. Someone threw a brick through my front window. Glass everywhere. Covering the floor. The couch. Emma was screaming upstairs. I called the police. They came. Took a report. Said there was nothing they could do without evidence. I stood in my living room at midnight. Glass crunching under my feet. And I realized something. Barbara wasn't just trying to take my house. She was trying to destroy me first. Who's orchestrating this harassment campaign? How do they have this much power over the police? Will Emma be safe? The certified letter arrived on a Tuesday. I signed for it at the door. Hands already shaking before I opened it. Notice of lien. My property. My home. $8,350 owed. The inflated fees. Plus fines. Plus administrative costs. Effective immediately. I sat down at the kitchen table. Read it 3 times. My phone rang an hour later. My bank. Mr. Castellano, we need to discuss your mortgage. The lien showed up on my credit report overnight. My score dropped 150 points. The bank was calling my loan, demanding immediate refinancing or full payment. I tried to refinance. Called 4 different lenders. All denied. The lien makes you too high risk. I was trapped. I called a lawyer. Found one in the phone book who handled HOA cases. Consultation fee, $500. I scraped it together from my emergency fund, the one I'd been saving for Emma's future. Met him in his office downtown. Fluorescent lights. Stained carpet. I laid out everything. The illegal assessment. The harassment. The lien. He reviewed the documents for 20 minutes. Finally looked up. This is predatory, he said. But fighting it will cost you $30,000 minimum. Maybe more if it goes to trial. My heart sank. I don't have that. Then my advice? He closed the folder. Pay it. Cut your losses. Move on. I walked out of his office in a daze. $30,000 I didn't have. To fight an $8,350 lien I shouldn't know. The math didn't work. 2 days later, another letter. IRS audit notice. Someone reported unreported income. I've never cheated on my taxes. Ever. Now I needed a tax attorney too. Another $5,000 I didn't have. I sat at my kitchen table that night. Bills spread out in front of me. Medical debt from my wife's cancer treatment. $23,000. Mortgage. $1,800 a month. Utilities. Groceries. Emma's school supplies. And now this. I started rationing food. Buying the cheapest bread. Generic cereal. Emma asked why we stopped getting the good mac and cheese. I told her we were trying something new. She didn't believe me. Marcus called Friday evening. I'm paying, he said. His voice was hollow. I can't do this anymore. My wife's having panic attacks. She can't sleep. Marcus, don't. I have to. I'm sorry. He hung up. One by one, they fell. The Hendersons paid Monday. The Kowalskis paid Wednesday. The Rodriguezes held out until Friday. Then caved. Only Mrs. Thompson and I were left. She called me Saturday morning. I'm moving to Ohio, she said, crying. My daughter has room for me. I can't fight anymore. Mrs. Thompson, I'm 78 years old. I don't have $30,000 for a lawyer. I'm done. She hung up. I was alone now. I drove to the lake that evening, parked by the water, watched the sunset behind the mountains. This place was supposed to be our fresh start. After losing Sarah, after the hospital rooms and the funeral and the grief, Emma and I were supposed to heal here. Now it was a prison. My phone buzzed. Text from an unknown number. Leave while you still can. I stared at the screen, then threw the phone onto the passenger seat. Barbara was winning, and I was drowning. Who's sending threatening messages? How deep does this corruption go? Is there anyone left who will fight? I was at the hardware store buying plywood to board up my broken window when someone tapped my shoulder. I turned around. Janet Morrison. She'd been on the HOA board until 2 months ago, then suddenly resigned. No explanation. Can we talk? She asked. Her voice was quiet. Urgent. We went to a coffee shop 2 blocks away. Sat in the back corner. She kept glancing at the door. I need to tell you something, she said. But you can't say it came from me. I leaned forward. What is it? She pulled a folder from her bag. Set it on the table between us. Barbara's planning is bigger than you think. She opened the folder. Meeting minutes. Emails. Financial spreadsheets. I copied these before I left the board, she said. Barbara and Derek have been stealing from the HOA for 8 months. My eyes scanned the documents. Transfer. $45,000 to Sterling Development, LLC. Transfer. $62,000 to Sterling Development, LLC. Transfer. $88,000 to Sterling Development, LLC. Page after page. How much total? I asked. $340,000. I felt dizzy. The Community Improvement Fund is empty, Janet continued. They spent it on Derek's company. The special assessments aren't for improvements. They're to cover the missing money before the annual audit. She flipped to another page. An email chain. Barbara to Derek. We need $850,000 total to buy out the waterfront parcels. Once they default, HOA forecloses. You buy at auction. Derek to Barbara. Investors are lined up. $900,000 per condo unit. We're looking at $9 million profit. My hands were shaking. They're targeting us on purpose, I said. Janet nodded. 10 waterfront properties. Force you all into default. Foreclose. Derek buys cheap. Builds luxury condos. I felt sick. Why didn't you come forward sooner? Her eyes filled with tears. They threatened my family. Barbara knows people. Powerful people. She told me if I said anything, she'd make sure my husband lost his job. That my kids would suffer. She wiped her eyes. But I can't stay quiet anymore. Mrs. Thompson shouldn't have to leave her home. You shouldn't have to lose yours. She pushed the folder toward me. Take this to a real lawyer. Not someone local. Barbara owns half the attorneys in this county. Go to the city. Find someone who specializes in HOA law. I took the folder. What will she do when she finds out you gave me this? Janet stood up, grabbed her purse. I don't care anymore. Some things are worth the risk. She looked at me one more time. Be careful. They're watching you. Then she walked out. I sat there for 10 minutes, staring at the documents. Evidence. Real evidence. For the first time in weeks, I felt something other than fear. I felt hope. How deep does Barbara's corruption network go? Can this evidence actually stop them? What will Barbara do when she finds out about the leak? I drove 2 hours to the city the next morning. Left Emma with Marcus's wife. Told her I'd be back by dinner. Mitchell and Associates. 18th floor. Glass windows overlooking downtown. The receptionist led me to a conference room. Sarah Mitchell walked in 5 minutes later. Sharp blazer. Sharper eyes. She didn't waste time with pleasantries. Tell me everything. I laid out the whole story. The illegal fee increase. The missing notifications. The harassment. The slashed tires. The brick through my window. Then I opened Janet's folder. Sarah's expression changed as she read. Her jaw tightened. She flipped through page after page. Meeting minutes. Bank transfers. Email chains. Finally looked up. This isn't just HOA overreach, she said. This is racketeering. The word hung in the air. They've embezzled $340,000. Falsified records. Engaged in systematic harassment. Filed fraudulent liens. She closed the folder. This is federal. Can you help me? I asked. She studied me for a moment. I'll take your case pro bono. On one condition. What? When this is over, you go public. These stories need exposure. People need to know what HOA corruption looks like. I nodded. Deal. We spent the next week building an ironclad case. Sarah filed discovery requests. Barbara tried to block them. Sarah filed a motion to compel. The judge sided with us. The HOA financial records arrived 3 days later. Sarah spread them across her conference table. Look at this. She pointed to signature lines on the bylaw amendments. These are forged. The board members' signatures don't match their voter registration cards. She pulled up another document. The email logs showing notification? Fabricated. The server timestamps don't align with the email headers. More pages. Every transfer to Sterling Development is marked as vendor payment. But there's no corresponding work orders. No invoices. No contracts. She looked at me. They didn't just steal money. They created an entire false paper trail. I gave her affidavits from Marcus and the other targeted families. She interviewed Mrs. Thompson over video call. Recorded her testimony about being forced from her home. Then I showed her my security footage. The camera I'd installed after the brick incident. 2 nights ago. 2:47 a.m. Derek Sterling, Barbara's son, spray painting deadbeat across my garage door. His face, clear as day. His license plate, visible in the frame. Sarah smiled for the first time. We've got them. She spent the next 2 days drafting the lawsuit. Fraud, embezzlement, harassment, breach of fiduciary duty, intentional infliction of emotional distress. She also filed criminal complaints with the state attorney general. Wire fraud, mail fraud, racketeering. The documents were 3 inches thick. This will destroy them, Sarah said. She filed everything on a Friday afternoon. By Monday morning, Barbara would know. What happens next? I asked. Sarah leaned back in her chair. Now? They panic. I drove home that evening. The sun setting over the mountains. For the first time in weeks, I felt like I could breathe. Emma ran to me when I walked through the door. Did you win, Daddy? I picked her up. Not yet, sweetheart. But we're going to. How will Barbara react to the lawsuit? Will the criminal investigation move fast enough? What desperate move will they make next? Barbara got the lawsuit Monday at 9 a.m. By 10 a.m., she went nuclear. I found the first violation notice taped to my door when I left for work. Mailbox non-compliant. Fine, $500. Then another. Driveway cracks exceed community standards. Fine, $750. Another. House paint color faded beyond acceptable range. Fine, $1,000. Another. Lawn edging improper. Fine, $500. 15 violations total. $20,000 in fines. All dated the same day. All completely fabricated. Marcus called. I got 12 violations. So did the Hendersons. Every family that gave affidavits. All hit at once. Sarah called an hour later. Barbara just filed emergency foreclosure proceedings on all 10 properties simultaneously. My stomach dropped. Can she do that? She's trying to move before the criminal investigation gains traction. It's panic mode. That night, it got worse. Emma and I went to dinner at the diner downtown. Needed to get out of the house. When we came back, the front door was open. I grabbed Emma, pulled her behind me. Stay here. I walked inside slowly. The house was trashed. Every drawer pulled out. Contents dumped on the floor. Couch cushions slashed. Kitchen cabinets emptied. I went upstairs. Emma's room. Her toys scattered. Her bed torn apart. My room. Clothes thrown everywhere. Then I saw them. Photos of Sarah, my late wife, ripped into pieces, scattered across the floor. Emma appeared in the doorway behind me. She saw the torn photos. Started crying. Mommy's pictures. She dropped to her knees. Tried to gather the pieces. I called the police. They came. Took a report. Looked around. Anything stolen? The officer asked. No. Just destroyed. He wrote something on his notepad. Probably kids. Vandalism. Not much we can do without evidence. This is targeted harassment, I said. I'm in the middle of a lawsuit with. That's a civil matter, sir. We can't get involved in HOA disputes. They left 20 minutes later. I checked my security cameras. The footage was gone. Completely wiped. They'd accessed it remotely somehow. The next morning, my principal called. We need you to come in. I drove to the school. Sat in her office. We received 3 more complaints, she said. Parents claiming you were verbally aggressive. Inappropriate comments to students. All lies. This is retaliation, I said. I'm being targeted because I understand you're going through something, but we have to take these seriously. She handed me a letter. Administrative leave. Pending full investigation. No income. No paycheck. I walked out to my car. Hands shaking. Marcus texted. They got me fired too. Construction site safety violation. Complete bullshit. Sarah called that afternoon. Emergency meeting. All the targeted families gathered at her office. They're trying to destroy you before trial, Sarah said. We need to file for an emergency injunction. Stop all HOA actions immediately. How long will that take? Marcus asked. Hearing set for 3 days from now. 3 days. 72 hours. I looked around the room. Mrs. Thompson was there via video call. Everyone looked exhausted. Terrified. If we lose this hearing, Sarah said quietly, they'll foreclose before we can stop them. The room went silent. Barbara was cornered. And cornered animals are the most dangerous. Can we survive 3 more days of attacks? Will the judge grant the injunction? What if Barbara has the judge in her pocket too? The courthouse steps were marble, cold under my feet. Sarah walked beside me, briefcase in hand. 2 paralegals behind her. Marcus and the other families followed. Barbara was already inside, standing in the hallway with her attorney Vance. 2 other lawyers flanking them. A show of force. She saw me, smirked. We entered the courtroom. Wood paneling. High ceilings. American flag in the corner. Judge Patricia Hartley presided. Mid-60s. Gray hair pulled back. Stern face. All rise. We stood. The judge sat. We sat. We're here for an emergency injunction, Judge Hartley said. Counsel, proceed. Sarah stood. Your Honor, the defendants have engaged in systematic harassment and illegal foreclosure proceedings against my clients. They filed fraudulent liens, fabricated violations, and we have evidence of embezzlement exceeding $340,000. She approached the bench, handed the judge a folder. Judge Hartley opened it, started reading. Her expression didn't change, but her eyes narrowed. Sarah continued. The HOA board never provided the legally required 90-day notice for the special assessment. They forged board signatures on bylaw amendments. They've falsified financial records. She pulled out her laptop, projected images onto the courtroom screen. Bank transfers, email chains, forged signatures. Then she played the video. Derek Sterling, 2:47 a.m. Spray painting my garage. His face clear. His license plate visible. The courtroom went silent. Vance stood, adjusted his tie. Your Honor, this is simply a disgruntled homeowner upset about legitimate fees. The board has full authority under. Sarah cut him off. They embezzled $340,000. She slammed a stack of documents on her table. Here are the bank records. Every transfer. Every fraudulent invoice. Every fake vendor payment. Judge Hartley leaned forward. Mrs. Sterling. Barbara stood. Tried to look composed. Did you authorize the transfer of $340,000 from the Community Improvement Fund to Sterling Development, LLC? Barbara's face went pale. That was a loan. For community benefit. A loan to your son's private company? The judge's voice was sharp. Without member approval? Silence. Your Honor, if I may. Vance tried to speak. Judge Hartley raised her hand. You may not. She closed the folder. Looked at Barbara. I'm granting the emergency injunction. All HOA actions against the plaintiffs are stayed pending full trial. Barbara's mouth opened. Furthermore, the judge continued, I'm ordering a forensic audit of all HOA finances for the past 3 years. Mrs. Sterling, you are prohibited from accessing HOA bank accounts or conducting any board business until this matter is resolved. She banged her gavel. We're adjourned. Barbara's face twisted, rage and panic mixing together. You can't do this. I just did. The judge stood, left through the back door. Sarah turned to me, smiled. We won. Barbara stormed past us, Vance following, her heels clicking on the marble floor. She turned back once, looked at me, pure hatred in her eyes. Then she was gone. I stood there, heart pounding. Marcus grabbed my shoulder. It's over. Not yet, Sarah said. But we just landed the first real blow. We walked out into the sunlight. For the first time in months, I felt like I could breathe. Will Barbara obey the court order? What will the forensic audit uncover? Is this finally the turning point? The forensic auditor started work on Monday. CPA named David Chun, 20 years experience, specializes in fraud cases. He called Sarah on Wednesday. You need to see this. We met at Sarah's office. Chun had spreadsheets covering the entire conference table. They didn't just steal $340,000, he said. He pulled up a file. They stole $890,000 over 2 years. My jaw dropped. Fake vendor invoices, ghost contractors, personal expenses charged to the HOA. Barbara Sterling spent $40,000 of HOA money on her personal vacation to Europe. He flipped through more pages. Derek's company received monthly transfers disguised as landscaping services. But no landscaping was ever done. Sarah leaned over the documents. This is one of the most egregious cases of HOA fraud I've ever seen. She nodded. I'm reporting this to the State Attorney General today and recommending FBI involvement. FBI? I asked. Wire fraud, mail fraud, racketeering. This crosses state lines. It's federal. 2 days later, it happened. 6 a.m. FBI raid. Barbara's house. Derek's apartment. Agents and windbreakers. Search warrants. Handcuffs. Local news covered it. I watched from my couch. Emma beside me eating cereal. The anchor's voice. Local HOA president arrested in massive fraud scheme. Authorities say Barbara Sterling and her son Derek embezzled nearly $1 million from the Lakeview HOA Community Fund. Video footage of Barbara being let out in handcuffs. Her face. No more smirk. Just shock. Derek in another shot. Head down. Trying to hide from cameras. My phone started buzzing. Text after text. Neighbors I hadn't heard from in months. We had no idea. We're so sorry. Is there anything we can do? Marcus called. Turn on channel 7. I switched channels. Press conference. State Attorney General. This investigation revealed systematic fraud targeting vulnerable homeowners. We will prosecute to the fullest extent of the law. Reporter, what charges are they facing? Wire fraud, mail fraud, racketeering, embezzlement, harassment, each carrying significant prison time. That afternoon, the HOA held an emergency meeting. Barbara removed from the board. Entire board resigned. New elections held. Marcus ran. Won by unanimous vote. Janet Morrison came back. Also elected. Their first action, rescind all illegal fees and fines. Everyone who paid gets full refunds. Second action, formal written apologies to every targeted family. The harassment stopped overnight. No more police visits. No more violation notices. No more Facebook attacks. The community page was deleted. My principal called. The investigation cleared you. All complaints were fabricated. You can return to work Monday. I sat on my couch that night. Emma asleep upstairs. The house was quiet, peaceful. For the first time in 3 months, I felt safe. Sarah called. There's a civil case too. You can sue for damages. Emotional distress. Lost wages. Harassment. I thought about Emma. About her future. About everything we'd lost. Let's do it, I said. Not just for me. For everyone they tried to destroy. Will Barbara face serious prison time? How much will the civil damages be? Can the community truly recover? 6 months later, I stood outside the federal courthouse. Gray sky. Cold wind. November. Sarah beside me. Marcus behind. Mrs. Thompson flew in from Ohio. The trial lasted 2 weeks. Federal prosecutor. 12 jurors. Packed gallery. Barbara and Derek sat at the defense table. No more power suits. Just plain clothes. Defeated expressions. The prosecution presented everything. Bank records. Email chains. Video evidence. Janet testified first. Described how Barbara threatened her family. Forced her into silence. She told me if I spoke up, she'd ruin my husband's career. Ruin my life. Marcus testified about losing his job. His wife's panic attacks. Mrs. Thompson testified about being forced from her home at 78 years old. I lived there for 30 years. It was supposed to be where I'd die. She took that from me. I testified about the break-in. The slashed tires. The brick through my window. About finding my wife's photos torn into pieces. About my daughter crying on the floor, trying to put them back together. The jury watched the garage video. Derek's face clear as day. Listened to recorded board meetings. Barbara's voice. We need to squeeze them until they break. Derek's lawyer tried to blame Barbara. Barbara's lawyer tried to claim business judgment. Neither strategy worked. The evidence was overwhelming. Jury deliberated for hours. We waited in the hallway. Nobody spoke. Finally, the bailiff called us back. Has the jury reached a verdict? We have, Your Honor. The forewoman stood. On the count of wire fraud. Guilty. On the count of mail fraud. Guilty. On the count of racketeering. Guilty. Every count. Guilty. Barbara put her head in her hands. Started sobbing. Derek stared at the floor. Expressionless. Sentencing hearing 2 weeks later. Judge Hartley presided. Mrs. Sterling, Mr. Sterling. You exploited your positions of trust. You preyed on vulnerable families. You targeted a widower and his young daughter. She looked directly at Barbara. You showed no mercy. You will receive none from this court. Barbara, 12 years federal prison. Derek, 8 years. $890,000 in restitution. Plus damages. Barbara broke down completely. Collapsed in her chair. Derek was led away in handcuffs. Head down. The civil case settled the following week. $2.4 million total. Split among the 10 targeted families. My share, $240,000. Enough to pay off the mortgage. Secure Emma's college fund. Start fresh. Sarah hugged me outside the courthouse after the settlement. You did it. You stopped them. I looked at the building. The marble steps. We did it, I said. Marcus, Mrs. Thompson, all the families. Sarah, everyone who refused to give up. This is for all of them. How will the community rebuild after this trauma? What happens to the HOA now? Will Emma finally have peace? 3 months later. Spring afternoon. Warm sun. Clear sky. I sat on my dock. Feet dangling in the lake water. Emma played in the grass behind me, laughing with her friends. The mountains reflected perfectly in the water, green and alive. Everything was different now. The community transformed. New HOA board. Marcus as president. Janet as treasurer. Every meeting open to all members. Every budget posted online. Every decision requires a vote. Transparency. Accountability. Trust. We'd built something real. Mrs. Thompson moved back last month. Her house fully paid off from the settlement. She bakes cookies for Emma twice a week now. Neighbors actually talk to each other. Help each other. We're not just houses near a lake anymore. We're a community. Forged through fire. I used part of my settlement money to create something bigger. A legal defense fund. For homeowners facing HOA abuse anywhere in the state. Free legal help. No questions asked. Sarah's firm manages it. We've already helped 12 families. Stopped 3 illegal foreclosures. Exposed 2 more corrupt boards. Emma ran up to me. Grass stains on her knees. Daddy, why did you fight so hard? I pulled her close. Because sometimes doing the right thing is the hard thing. And we never let bullies win. She hugged me tight. Mom would be proud. My throat tightened. Yes, sweetheart. I think she would be. The sun started setting. Orange and pink across the sky. This house. This land. This view. It was supposed to be our fresh start after losing Sarah. Barbara tried to take it. Instead, she gave me something else. Purpose. My phone buzzed. YouTube notification. The video I posted about our story hit 1 million views. Comments flooded in. Thank you for sharing. I'm fighting my HOA right now. You gave me hope. This inspired me to stand up to my corrupt board. We're not alone anymore. I smiled. That's why we fight. Not just for ourselves. For everyone who comes after. Emma sat beside me. Her feet in the water next to mine. It's pretty here, she said. Yeah, I said. It really is. The lake was calm. The mountains stood strong. And for the first time in a year, everything felt right. If you're fighting an HOA nightmare right now, you're not alone. Drop your story in the comments below. Let's build a community that protects each other. Your story matters. Your voice matters. And together, we're stronger than any corrupt board. Hit that like button if this story inspired you. Subscribe for more stories of people standing up to injustice. Because every time you share these stories, you help someone else find the courage to fight back. We're not just viewers here. We're a movement, and we're just getting started.